I'm Ronan Williams, this is Rivers of Piss, and here's what's coming up on tonight's programme.
They told me to go away.
It's like being in a children's playground. Save our rivers! Save our rivers! Westminster, listen! Westminster, listen! Save our groundwater! Save our groundwater! Stop killing our rivers!
Never do that to me again. So you've got all that to look forward to over the next 20 minutes or so. That's the sizzle in order to edge you as we go along. I'm told that we've got to put all the exciting footage up front because according to the algorithm, audience engagement is more important than the programme itself. But I'm not a slave to the algorithm. So, you know the issue. You've been in the room while the news is on, you've got angry and then felt helpless moments later. At least I did. So this programme is me and my friends going on a journey to try and feel less helpless about the state of our rivers. In the faeces, I mean face, of bureaucracy, mismanagement, and my inability to not make poo-poo and pee-pee jokes along the way. Come with us as we wade through rivers of piss. The River Wye is the fourth longest river in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and stretches over 250 kilometres. Blah, 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 blah. Anyone can recite the Wikipedia page, but not anyone can know it quite as well as the wild woman of the Wye.
I was invited to meet Angela Jones, a clean water activist on the banks of the River Usk, one of the two main rivers in Monmouthshire. Both the Usk and the Wye have been plagued by reports of raw sewage dumping by Welsh Water. They both also suffer from reports of excrement washing from nearby intensive poultry units into the river during heavy rainfall. Today we're going to be testing this short section of the Usk. Angela, hi. So you've been called the Wild Woman of the Wye amongst other things. Can you tell us a little bit how that name came about?
The Wye and the Usk are my rivers. I know about them because I'm in them every day. I'm not anyone fluffy who likes a little dip in the river. I literally...
You live, breathe and sleep the Wye?
Yeah, of course.
So is it safe to say no one knows the Wye better than you?
I know every section, and I don't just know it from the banks. I know it from below. We are on the verge of ecological collapse on these rivers now, and if something isn't done, and I've been doing this for 5-6 years, if it's not immediate now, we can just wave it goodbye.
And it's a beautiful stretch of river as well. It'd be a shame to lose it.
Well, it's bigger than that. I have 2 children. When I gave birth to those children, I vowed to always protect them. I feel exactly the same about what we have outdoors. And we can't take on the whole world. It's overwhelming, but it's too much. But we can take on what is actually on our doorstep, and these rivers are on our doorstep. You know, change what you can, accept what you can't. I can change this, and I certainly will never, ever accept it.
Shall we test then?
We shall.
While Angela and that guy with the great hair test the water, let's take a look at what's just upstream from them. One of more than 2,000 storm overflows, or SOs for short, across Wales. This one seems to be leaking.
So clearly this water's polluted and a little bit disgusting. I'm going to get out very quickly. But the question is, how did we get here? Cut the chit-chat out, settle down class. Today's lesson is on privatisation and Thatcherism in the 1980s, specifically in regards to the UK's water industry. Now, who can tell me about Thatcher's privatisation policy? No one? No one at all? None of you? Really? Okay, that's disappointing. I guess we'll have to start at the beginning. By the end of World War II, the water industry was managed locally by upwards of 1,400 government bodies. But it reached a breaking point, and legislation aimed to consolidate that in England and Wales into 36 regional ones, sustaining our water industry for nearly 4 whole decades.
Now enter the villain of the piece.
In 1989, Maggie Thatcher's government implemented a sector-wide privatisation policy. She reduced those 36 government bodies to 15 private companies. Private, meaning that they could be traded publicly on the London Stock Exchange for the first time ever. So what does that mean? Anyone could own a share of Welsh Water, and anyone could and did profit off of water. I'm not supposed to give my opinion on privatisation of public industry. The university won't let me do that, but I can state the evidence in a non-biased way. So here it is. On average, you're paying 40% more now than you were under the nationalised system. And according to The Sun, pay for water bosses soared to 1.1 million in 2022. And just to hammer this point home, there are only 2 countries in the whole world that have a fully privatised water and sanitation system. One is Chile, and the other, well, you can probably guess the other. These are what we will refer to in our class next week on Marxism as late-stage capitalism. Whose phone is that? I said at the beginning of the year that everyone's phones were to be off and away during lectures. Whose is it? Go on, own up. It's your time you're wasting. Sorry, that's me. That's me. It's Alan Cairns, the MP for the Vale of Glamorgan. He said he'd give me a call to answer any questions I had about the government's policy on river pollution.
Hi Ronan, how are you? Pleasure to be here, happy to help.
So we've just learned all about Thatcher and privatisation. Do you feel like we're still feeling the ramifications of those decisions today?
I think without a question these things would be possibly even worse if it's a nationalised system, because nationalised companies or national organisations are much more inefficient than private companies. And look, we have privatised water industries right across Europe, and you know, it's normal. All right, it was just unusual to have a nationalised industry in the UK.
So that's not entirely true. In Europe, it's far more common to have a mixture of publicly and privately owned water systems. The UK's fully nationalised and then fully privatised systems were the exception, not the rule. In fact, in the Netherlands, it's illegal for the government to sell off public utilities. And in France, Le de Paris, a publicly owned company, has just cut bills and introduced still and sparkling water fountains throughout Paris, using the hashtag socialism with a sparkle.
The second element, though, I think is failure of regulation, where the regulators really have not held their feet to the fire. They really should have been challenging them.
So what do you think of the cries that we're hearing to renationalise the water industry at the moment?
Well, to do that will cost hundreds of billions of pounds, right? Of taxpayers' money that would simply go into the hands of shareholders because they own the companies.
Is that not already the case? Surfers Against Sewage calculate that in 2021, water companies paid out a cumulative £16.5 million to CEOs.
So in Wales specifically then, do you think the drowning of the village of Capel Celyn demonstrates a lack of control that the Welsh people have over their own water?
Well, I think it's unfair to talk about a lack of control, because at that stage, devolution didn't exist, and basically there was one UK government. But clearly, since that time, devolution has happened. So when I was Secretary of State for Wales, I made the decision to devolve water policy so that they would be able to make the decisions around managing water.
So you just said you devolved water powers to Wales, but the Welsh Government has been refusing to take official control of those powers since 2017.
Well, I devolved it, so the legislation has passed. And initially they asked for a 12-month delay, and that was sensible because clearly they needed to get their experience in place, their policy infrastructure in place, their people in place in order to be ready to take those decisions, and that was sensible. So when it was disclosed just quite recently that the Welsh Government had still asked for continual delays of water policy being devolved, I was aghast. I just couldn't believe it because they had made such a song and dance about it over so many years. I was happy to deliver it, but clearly it seems to me that they were more interested in the politics of it rather than the practicalities about achieving something with it.
Do you think then maybe they don't want to take on the blame for any failures in that system that was previously run by the UK government and Welsh Water?
Well, it's a fair point, because with responsibility comes accountability. And this has become a live political debate of late. And this is because, for the first time, the government decided to monitor what was being discharged. So we didn't know it was happening before. So it's a little bit strange for the government that identified the problem and started to monitor it, having the blame for it when this has been going on for decades.
I think we've got a little bit more investigating to do, but thanks so much for talking to me today, Alan.
No problem. Happy to do so.
It was great to talk to a sitting MP. What I would say is that last point about not wanting to take the blame for starting monitoring falls a little bit flat after 13 years of government. The big question now, though, is why didn't the Welsh Government take on responsibility for the powers that Alan passed? We reached out for a comment, but they didn't get back to us. So instead, we're going to cross over to our political correspondent, who, due to time constraints, we can actually only afford to give a minute to talk about this subject. So let's see how fast you can talk without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. This is just a 60-second segment. Oh, how long? What, starting now? Now? Okay, I don't know where to begin. Devolution, I guess, devolution. Basically the transfer of government powers from Westminster in England to a smaller, more regional, localised government entity. In our case, the Senedd, Wales, the Empire's first colony. In 2017, Secretary of State for Wales, Alan Kent, who would be a great get for an interview on this subject, by the way, steered a bill through Parliament which would transfer powers regarding water right here to Wales. Why water? Well, we need water to survive, even as strong Welsh people, but water is the most abundant resource in Wales, and you can see why the Welsh people have a thirst for control of that resource. It is symbolic, Capel Celyn and things like that. But even now, 6 years on, both governments say they have no plans to hand over in the foreseeable future. The Welsh Government was offered control and they didn't take it. I wish I had a more exciting end to this saga, but nothing seems to be happening. It kind of sums up the reality of the situation. How was that? Was that 60 seconds? Never do that to me again. That was incredibly unprofessional. Don't turn away from me. Don't turn away from me and cut back to him. Don't. No, I want to talk to you. We've heard a lot about Welsh Water, the sole provider of water in Wales, so I thought it was important to see what they had to say for themselves.
Welsh Water refused to speak on camera, instead opting to issue us with a statement. Please pause to read if you wish, but it's a lot of information. So the long and short of it is, in Wales, 44% of rivers meet good ecological status, compared to just 14% in England. Welsh Water has invested over £8 million in installing monitors on its overflows to record spill numbers. Both Welsh Water executives Peter Parry and Mike Davis have said they won't accept any variable pay for the year 2022-23.
They told me to go away. We've heard lots of voices, Welsh Water issuing lengthy statements, the Welsh Government not wanting to take on powers or responsibilities, and Westminster blaming the Senedd. It's like that Spider-Man meme, where they're all pointing at each other. Except, no one's going to swoop in and save us. We the people have no choice but to take action. So let's cut to field reporter Ronan, who's in Cardiff Bay right now.
Save our rivers! Save our rivers! Westminster, listen! Westminster, listen! Shame on Welsh water! Shame on Welsh water! Stop killing our rivers! Stop killing our rivers! Feces, not feces! Feces on feces!
All right. Da, 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 da. So, everyone's got a box with a head in it, right?
Mine's Gwyneth Paltrow.
What's in the box? We're conditioned to sort of look for faces and personalities and things like that. So this, the goddess of the why, so she's here as a kind of physical representation of the river.
And it makes people notice, doesn't it?
If you've got something that is a really easy photograph that fills a front page, something like that, you know, it's about keeping this in the headlines, keeping it in the news, keeping it as current as possible, particularly in the climate where we're going, you know, into a national election, amongst other things.
By us to speak our voice, and all we hear all the time is can kicking. It's them, it's us. It's like being in a children's playground. And this is way bigger than us. This is our environment for our future generations. This is wildlife that deserves protection. Nature doesn't ask anything from us. It invites each and every one of us into it. When I gave birth to my 2 children, I became a guardian for my children, and I vowed always to protect them. This won't affect my generation, but the future generation to come up are going to have nothing left if we continue in this way. And remember, it isn't about political point scoring. It's way bigger than that.
So I'd like to end on a quote from the American country singer Utah Phillips. "The earth isn't dying, it's being killed." Thank you so much for watching. I've been Ronan Williams. This has been Rivers of Piss. Have a wonderful night and take care of your loved ones during the impending climate apocalypse. Fuck, that's fucking cold. See, when the camera's not rolling, I can get it.